Lena moved silently through the dim marble corridor, her small hands gripping the old cleaning rag as she pushed the bucket forward. The underground palace felt colder than winter, and every torch on the wall carved shadows that looked alive. For 6 months she had not spoken a single word, not since the riot above ground took her translator parents away and left her as a mute servant in a world ruled by vampires. She kept her head down, hoping the guards would ignore her as always. But tonight, when she neared the council chamber, she heard something that froze her blood. 2 armored guards whispered in Russian, a language no vampire guard should know. Their harsh voices carried a terrifying message. The vampire king would be killed during tomorrow's council, trapped at false dawn and left to burn. The bucket slipped from her hands, water splashing across the floor. The guards turned sharply, eyes narrowing, hands drifting toward their weapons. Fear jolted through her, but something stronger rose inside her, the memory of her mother saying, "Languages save lives." For the first time in months, Lena ran, her shoes slapping against the marble as the guards shouted and gave chase. She raced up the spiral steps, heart pounding, breath ragged, pushing toward the only place she might be heard. When the towering doors of the throne room appeared, she sprinted toward the guard stationed there. "Please," she cried, her voice cracking from months of silence, "they want to kill the king." The scarred female guard hesitated, sensing truth beneath the panic, and pulled Lena inside. The vampire king stood from his dark throne, his eyes reflecting candlelight like deep metal. Calm, ancient, unreadable, he sent everyone out and stepped closer, assessing the trembling child before him. Lena forced herself to speak, repeating the Russian words exactly as she heard them. The king tested her with old magic, a blood-marked circle that allowed no lies. Under its glow, her memory spilled out, her parents' deaths, her silence, and the plan to end the king's life. When the magic faded, the king's voice softened. "I believe you." And with a cold resolve he added, "We will find who dares speak Russian in my palace." That night, Lena, a silent, forgotten girl, became the only person standing between a kingdom and its downfall.
Lena woke in the small guarded chamber where the king had ordered her to stay, the faint glow of the underground city drifting in through the narrow window. Her body was still trembling from the night before, but the palace around her felt different now. Dangerous, alert, alive. Captain Rhea stood outside like a silent wall, watching every shadow. When the king arrived, dressed simply and without ceremony, the air shifted again. He studied Lena not as a servant, but as someone who carried a truth no one else could hear. He asked her to repeat the guard's descriptions, every word, every sound, and she recited them with a precision that surprised even her. The king nodded, sensing her rare gift, a perfect memory for language, a human recorder. Soon 3 of his closest advisors entered, each bearing the shining medallions of old authority. They questioned Lena carefully, trying to understand how palace guards could speak Russian when their bloodlines stretched centuries before the language existed. Lena answered quietly, yet firmly, her voice regaining strength with every word. The king watched her with a growing sense of respect, his cold expression softening whenever her courage overcame her fear. As the discussion deepened, the truth became clearer. The conspiracy was bigger than 2 guards. Someone had infiltrated the king's inner walls, teaching forbidden languages, twisting loyalty that had stood unbroken for generations. The king decided the council meeting must be postponed, publicly for security review, secretly to hunt the traitors. Before leaving, he placed his hand gently on Lena's shoulder, a rare gesture for a vampire king. "Your ears may save more than my life," he said quietly. "If you hear anything, any language out of place, tell me at once." For the first time since losing her parents, Lena felt something she had almost forgotten: purpose. A small human girl, once invisible, was now the king's hidden shield in a kingdom built on shadows.
The palace felt different now. Every hallway humming with whispers Lena could not quite see but could almost feel. Under Captain Rhea's watch, she was taken to the lower servant paths where the king believed hidden clues might surface. As she passed a narrow corner near the storage wing, her steps halted. Two vampires stood there in half-shadows, speaking in a strange rhythm, Russian blended with another ancient tone she barely recognized. One phrase hit her like a shock. She had heard those exact words years ago, scribbled in her parents' notebooks, a secret translation system they were creating to bridge communication between humans and vampires. Her breath tightened. Someone had stolen their work. Someone was weaponizing it. She stepped back quietly, but her heart was racing. When the king met her later in his private study, she hesitated, then repeated the coded phrase exactly as she heard it. His expression changed instantly, sharpening into something grave. "This isn't ordinary Russian," he said, pacing slowly. "This is structured, engineered." Lena nodded, her voice trembling as she explained how her parents once dreamed of building a unified language to prevent misunderstandings between species. Now, the same project was being twisted into a tool for betrayal. The king listened closely, his usual coldness replaced with something deeper, a protective resolve. "Your parents were trying to create peace," he murmured. "Someone has turned their dream into a dagger." The thought seemed to trouble him in a way Lena didn't fully understand. That night, the king summoned trusted scouts to trace every corner of the palace where foreign whispers had been heard. Lena watched him silently as he commanded them with calm authority, yet every time his eyes met hers, there was a flicker of something softer, recognition, maybe respect. She was no longer just a frightened human child. She was the only person who understood the language of the enemy. When the meeting ended, he spoke to her quietly. "Stay close. If they used your parents' knowledge, they may come for you next." And for the first time, Lena felt the full weight of the danger and the growing bond between her and the ancient king who now depended on her voice.
The deeper the investigation went, the heavier the atmosphere in the palace became. Vampire guards who once moved with centuries-old discipline now walked with uncertainty, whispering among themselves as rumors of betrayal spread. Lena felt those shifting tensions as she followed Captain Rhea toward the upper halls, where the king had called another private meeting. When she entered, the king stood over a map covered in red markings, his jaw tight, his expression colder than she had ever seen. "They are inside my inner circle," he said, without looking up. "Someone trained those guards, someone close." His voice held a rare edge, fear mixed with fury, a dangerous combination. He asked Lena to listen again to the coded phrase she'd heard, and when she repeated it softly, one of the king's most loyal advisors flinched. It was small, barely noticeable, but Lena caught it instantly. The king did too. His eyes snapped toward the man, ancient instincts sharpening. "You know this pattern," Draven said, stepping forward, his presence suffocating. The advisor stumbled backward, muttering excuses, but Lena recognized the panic in his voice. It was the same fear she heard in the guards. Before he could flee, Rhea blocked the door. Under pressure, the advisor confessed pieces of the truth, A secret faction had formed, vampires who believed humans were unworthy, and the king had grown too tolerant. They had used Lena's parents' stolen notes to create a hybrid code, one only a few could understand. The king's expression darkened, realizing the treason reached higher than he imagined. You used human knowledge to destroy peace they died trying to build? Draven said quietly, and the room fell into a chilling silence. Lena watched him, not as a king or a vampire, but as someone carrying the weight of an entire kingdom collapsing from within. For the first time, she saw something fragile beneath his strength, a loneliness carved by centuries of betrayal. When their eyes met, she felt an unexpected connection. She wasn't just helping him survive, she was helping him trust again. Lena, he said finally, his voice softer, stay close to me. Tonight, you are not just a witness, you are the key. And as the torches flickered around them, she realized the enemy was no longer hiding in darkness. He was already standing in the king's light.
Night settled heavily over the underground kingdom, dimming the glowing fungi in the cavern's ceiling until the entire palace felt like it was holding its breath. Lena walked beside the king through a hidden passage Rhea had unlocked, its walls carved with symbols older than any human civilization. At the end lay an old archive chamber, sealed for generations. If the traitors used your parents' code, Draven said, pushing open the stone door, there must be proof here. The moment they stepped inside, Lena froze. Shelves of ancient scrolls lined the walls, but scattered across a central table were torn pages she recognized instantly. Her parents' handwriting. Her heart twisted. Someone had stolen their research, copied it, and left fragments here as if mocking the very peace her parents died for. Draven watched her carefully as she touched the torn pages, her small fingers trembling. She pointed to a symbol written in red ink. "This one, they never finished it," she whispered. It was a bridge symbol, meant to unite languages, now altered into a coded warning system the traitors used to pass messages through the palace. The king's eyes hardened. They twisted your parents' hope into a weapon. His voice carried anger, but beneath it was something gentler, protective, almost aching. As they searched deeper into the archive, Lena found a half-burned notebook. Inside, a detailed map showed the traitors' meeting point, within the palace walls, close to the council chamber. Draven stepped closer, his presence steadying her panic. "This is the proof we needed. You found what my entire guard failed to see." For the first time, she felt pride mix with grief. A simple cleaning girl had uncovered what centuries of warriors could not. But before they could leave, faint footsteps echoed outside the chamber. Draven's hand moved to shield her instinctively, pulling her behind him as shadows shifted at the entrance. A cloaked figure appeared, eyes glowing faintly red, a traitor who had followed them. Lena felt her breath choke as the intruder spoke in a chilling blend of Russian and old vampire tongue. She understood every word. "The king dies at dawn. The child dies now." Draven stepped forward, voice like steel. "You will not touch her." The traitor hesitated, not because of the king's strength, but because he had not expected the girl to stand taller behind him, fear replaced by determination. She repeated his coded sentence back to him flawlessly, exposing him in his own language. His expression faltered. In that moment, Draven moved with supernatural speed, sweeping him aside and signaling Rhea's hidden team to seize him. As they left the chamber, Draven looked at Lena with something new in his ancient eyes. "They underestimated you," he said quietly, "but I will never again." And Lena realized she was no longer running from her past. She was rewriting it, with the king at her side. Dawn approached slowly in the underground kingdom,
the glowing lights fading into a pale morning hue as tension spread through every corridor. The council chamber, where the assassination was meant to happen, stood silent, its tall wooden doors reflecting the flicker of distant torches. Draven walked toward it with Lena by his side, both surrounded by a small circle of trusted guards. He had cancelled the council, but the traitor still believed he would appear. That was the trap. From behind a hidden balcony, Lena watched shadows gather near the chamber entrance, 3 figures wearing the silver wolf insignia. Their whispers blended Russian with coded vampire signals, confirming everything she had warned. As they prepared their ambush, Draven stepped into view, deliberately exposing himself. "Now," he whispered. Instantly, Ria's elite squad surrounded the traitors, capturing them before they could reach for their blades. But the last traitor tried to flee, sprinting toward the escape tunnel. Lena reacted before anyone else, calling out the Russian shutdown phrase her parents once taught her. The traitor froze in place, shocked that a child had just broken the code meant for trained assassins. Draven approached her slowly, his expression shifting from battle-focused to something indescribably soft. "You stopped a war, and saved a king who did not deserve your loyalty, yet you gave it anyway." The palace guards bowed to her. As word spread, the cleaning girl who once hid in silence had rewoven an entire kingdom's fate. Later, standing on a high balcony overlooking the glowing city, Lena felt the weight of her parents' legacy lift. Draven joined her, the morning light reflecting faintly in his ancient eyes. "Your parents tried to build a bridge between our worlds. Tonight, you finished what they began." For the first time since their deaths, Lena felt something warm break through her grief. Belonging. When the king placed his royal insignia around her neck, marking her as the youngest official translator in vampire history, she could hardly breathe. "This kingdom is safer because of you, and as long as I reign, you will never stand alone again." As the lights brightened across the underground city, Lena realized her story was no longer one of fear or loss. It was the story of a small human girl who changed the destiny of a vampire king and found her own voice along the way.